The windshield wipers stopped working first. I pulled over to clear the ice by hand, and when I got back in the car, Ellen was looking at me with an expression I couldn't read. The kids were quiet in the back seat. Marcus had stopped asking how much longer. Lily had taken off her headphones, which she never did. The silence felt wrong. Usually on road trips, the car was full of noise. Marcus's games, Lily's music bleeding through her headphones, Ellen reading aloud from her phone about places we should stop. But now everyone was just staring out at the white. "We should have taken the highway," Ellen said. "The GPS said this was faster." "The GPS lost signal an hour ago." She was right. I'd been following the road from memory or instinct or something else. The route felt familiar even though I'd never driven it before. Every turn seemed obvious. Every fork in the road had a clear answer. Like I'd driven this road 1,000 times, like I was coming home. I didn't mention this. To Ellen, I didn't know how to explain it. The snow was getting heavier. Visibility was down to maybe 20 feet. The road had disappeared under white, and I was navigating by the feel of pavement under the tires, by the slight resistance that told me I was still on solid ground. I thought about turning back. I thought about finding the highway, even if it added hours to the trip. But every time I considered it, something pulled me forward. A feeling that we were close to something, that we were exactly where we needed to be. "There," Lily said from the back seat. "There's something." I saw it too, a shape in the storm, large, dark, set back from the road behind what might have been a fence. "What is that?" Ellen asked. "I don't know. Shelter." I turned onto a driveway I shouldn't have been able to see. The gates were open. They looked like they'd been open for a long time. Rust had frozen them in place, as if they'd been waiting for someone to pass through. The building emerged from the snow like something surfacing from deep water. Victorian. Massive. 4 stories of dark windows and sagging roof lines. The kind of place that had been built for a purpose, though I couldn't have said what purpose that was. Wings extended from either side, embracing the circular drive. A clock tower rose from the center, its face blank, its hands missing. Snow had drifted against the walls, piling up in corners and doorways, making the building look half buried, like something trying to sink into the earth, like something that didn't want to be found. But we had found it. Ellen's hand found mine. "David, I don't want to go in there. We can't stay in the car. The heater's barely working. Another hour, and I know we can't stay. She stopped, tried again. "It feels like it's been waiting for us." I didn't tell her I felt it too. I didn't tell her that the building looked exactly like a place I'd dreamed about as a child, a recurring nightmare I'd forgotten until this moment. I didn't tell her that some part of me recognized the shape of those windows, the angle of that roof, the way the snow piled against those walls. I didn't tell her because I didn't understand it myself. "Stay close," I said. "We'll find one room. We'll stay together. In the morning, we'll walk to the main road." We got out of the car. The cold was immediate and absolute, a presence rather than an absence of heat. Marcus started crying. Lily took his hand. Ellen grabbed the emergency kit from the trunk while I tried the front door. It opened before I touched it. I told myself it was the wind. I told myself old doors do that. Swing open on rusted hinges when the pressure changes. I told myself a lot of things in those first few minutes. I told myself we had a choice. The lobby was dark. My flashlight cut a thin line through the dust, illuminating fragments. A staircase, a chandelier, a desk that might have been for reception. chairs overturned, papers scattered, a wheelchair lying on its side, wheels still slowly turning, though there was no one to push it. The ceiling was high and lost in shadow. The floor was covered in debris I couldn't identify. Leaves, maybe, though it was winter and there were no trees inside. Dirt, as if tracked in from somewhere. And something else. Something white and fine, like powder, like ash, like bone ground down to dust. And there was a smell. Not decay, exactly, something sweeter. Something that reminded me of my grandmother's house, of rooms that had been closed up for too long, of things preserved past their time. The smell of flowers long dead. The smell of perfume on a corpse. The smell of places where people went to sleep and never woke up. Hello? My voice didn't echo. The building seemed to absorb it, swallow it, take my words, and give nothing back. Is anyone here? Silence. No, not silence. Something else. A sound at the edge of hearing, like breathing, like humming, like a lullaby sung from very far away. A melody I almost recognized. A tune I might have known as a child, might have sung along to, might have forgotten until this moment. I realized I was humming along. I stopped. I don't hear anything, Ellen said. I looked at her. She was staring into the darkness, her face tight with fear, her arms wrapped around herself. She genuinely didn't hear it. The sound was only for me. That meant something, but I didn't want to know what. I almost asked if she was sure. Then I realized that might mean only I could hear it. And I didn't want to know what that meant. Let's find a room with a fireplace, I said. Somewhere we can warm up. We moved through the ground floor. Most doors were locked or blocked. The few that opened revealed empty spaces, stripped of furniture, the walls marked with stains I didn't examine too closely. In one room, I found scratches on the floor, long parallel lines leading toward a corner, as if something had been dragged. The scratches were deep, cutting through the wood, made by something, or someone, fighting hard not to go wherever they were being taken. I followed them with my flashlight. They ended at a wall, solid wall. No door, no opening, nothing to explain where the scratching stopped. In another room, I found a shoe. A child's shoe, small and worn, sitting in the center of the floor, as if someone had placed it there deliberately. The laces were still tied. The shoe was clean, too clean for a building that had been abandoned for decades. I picked it up. It was warm. I put it down and kept walking. In a third room, I found handprints on the window. Small handprints, pressed against the glass from the inside. Dozens of them, overlapping, as if many children had stood at this window, pressing their palms against the cold glass, looking out at something or waiting for something to come in. The glass was on the inside of the building. The handprints faced out. I didn't mention this to mention Ellen. I kept walking. We found a bathroom with a tub filled with dark water that hadn't drained. The water was still, perfectly still, but as I watched, I saw ripples spread from the center, as if something underneath had moved. I closed the door quietly and moved on. We found a nursery with cribs arranged in neat rows, all of them empty except for blankets that had been tucked in, as if the babies had simply vanished mid-sleep. Mobile toys hung overhead, turning slowly in a breeze I couldn't feel. We found an office with papers scattered across every surface. Patient files, I realized. Medical records. Pages and pages of notes in handwriting that grew more erratic as it went on. The last page I saw had only one sentence, written over and over. They won't let me leave. They won't let me leave. They won't let me. The sentence never finished. We passed through what might have been a dining hall. Long tables overturned, chairs scattered. On one wall, a mural that had been partially or destroyed. Scraps of painted faces still visible, eyes that seemed to follow us as we passed. The mural showed a family, mother, father, children, sitting at a table, smiling. But someone had scratched out all their faces, leaving only blank ovals where their features should have been. In the kitchen, I found a calendar. November 1963. Every day had been crossed off, except the last one, which had a single word written in red. Stay. The refrigerator was still running. I could hear it humming. A low, electrical drone that shouldn't have been possible in a building without power. I didn't open it. I didn't want to know what was inside. The building felt larger inside than it had looked from outside. We walked for what felt like miles, through corridors that doubled back on themselves, through rooms that seemed to repeat, through spaces that shouldn't have existed. I tried to keep track of where we'd been, but the layout kept shifting. Doors I was sure we'd passed appeared ahead of us. Hallways we'd walked down seemed to lead somewhere different when we tried to retrace our steps. And everywhere, that sound, that almost sound, the breathing or humming or lullaby that stayed just at the edge of hearing, that I could never quite make out, that Ellen claimed she couldn't hear at all. I started to wonder if Ellen was lying. I started to wonder if she heard it too and was afraid to admit it. I started to wonder a lot of things. Lily saw it too. She didn't say anything. She just held Marcus's hand tighter. I found a room near the back. Small. A fireplace with a clear chimney. Old furniture we could burn. One door, one window. Defensible, I thought, though I couldn't have said what I was defending against. The room felt different from the others. Warmer, somehow, even before I lit a fire. The walls were intact. The floor was clean. Cleaner than it should have been in a building this abandoned. No dust, no debris. Just worn wood and faded wallpaper and the faint impression that someone had been here recently. Someone had been expecting us. I found blankets folded neatly on a chair. Old blankets, moth-eaten and thin, but clean. Waiting. I found wood stacked beside the fireplace. Dry wood, perfectly sized for burning, arranged as if someone had prepared it for our arrival. I found a note on the mantelpiece, just a scrap of paper yellowed with age, with 2 words written in faded ink. Stay warm. I put the note in my pocket. I didn't show it to Ellen. The room felt different from the others. Warmer somehow, even before I lit a fire. The walls were intact. The floor was clean. Someone had been here before. Someone had stayed here, and they had left no trace except for the faint impression that this room was meant for something, meant for us. I pushed that thought away. This will work, I said. I'll get a fire started. Ellen was looking at something on the wall. I followed her gaze. Words scratched into the wallpaper, old, faded, but still legible. They stay. Kids don't look at that, Ellen said. David, what does that mean? I don't know, graffiti. It doesn't mean anything. But I'd seen other words as we walked through the building, on door frames, on floors, on ceilings somehow. Letters scratched into plaster 10 feet above where anyone could reach. Don't sleep, she hears. The children, warm. No way out. Forever. Stay. Fragments, warnings maybe, or something else. Instructions perhaps, messages from people who had been here before, who had learned things, who had tried to communicate what they had learned. The handwriting was different in each room. Dozens of different people had written these words. Dozens of different people had tried to warn whoever came after. I didn't let myself think about what had happened to those people. I didn't let myself wonder why their messages were still here, but they weren't. I didn't let myself count how many different hands had scratched these warnings into the walls. I didn't let myself wonder if my handwriting would be here too someday. If someone would find my words and wonder who'd written them and what had happened to me. I built the fire. The wood caught quickly, too quickly, as if it had been waiting to burn. The flames cast shadows that moved wrong, that seemed to reach toward us rather than away. I told myself that was normal. I told myself fire always does that. The warmth spread through the room. And for the first time since we'd entered the building, I felt something loosen in my chest. We were safe here. We were warm. We just had to wait out the storm. "Everyone stay close," I said. "Try to get some sleep. I'll keep watch." "Watch for what?" Lily asked. I didn't have an answer. Ellen lay down with Marcus, wrapping him in blankets, humming softly to help him sleep. The tune she hummed was familiar, a lullaby she'd sung to the kids when they were babies. But somehow here in this room, it sounded different. The notes seemed to echo, to multiply, to continue even after she'd stopped humming. Lily sat with her back against the wall, her eyes open, watching the door. She was 15, old enough to know when adults were pretending everything was fine, old enough to see through the lies we tell children. "Dad," she said quietly, "what is this place?" "Just an old building. We'll be gone in the morning." "That's not what I mean. I mean, what was it before it was abandoned?" I thought about the signs I'd seen, the restraints on the beds, the scratches on the walls. A hospital, I think, a long time ago. "What kind of hospital?" "The kind where people stayed." She was quiet for a moment, then, "Stayed how long?" I didn't answer. I didn't know how to tell her that some people stayed forever. I sat by the fire and listened to the building settle around us. Except it wasn't settling. Buildings settled with creaks and groans, random sounds that come and go. This was different. This was rhythmic. This regular, like footsteps on the floor above us, pacing back and forth, in an endless patient loop. I didn't mention it. Ellen seemed not to hear. Lily's eyes had finally closed. Marcus was breathing slow and even, deep in dreams I hoped were better than this place. I sat and listened to the footsteps. I tried to count them, to track the pattern. After a while, I realized they weren't just above us, they were around us, on all sides, in the walls, under the floor, like the building was breathing, like it was waking up, like it had been sleeping for a long time, and we had disturbed its rest. The fire cast strange shadows on the walls, shapes that moved when nothing should have been moving. Faces, I thought at first, but that couldn't be right. It was just the flames flickering, just the light playing tricks, just my exhausted mind looking for patterns that weren't there. But I kept watching anyway. I kept watching, and the shapes kept moving, and somewhere in the building, the footsteps continued their patient circuit. I thought about my father. He died when I was 12, in a hospital not so different from this one. Not a psychiatric hospital, just a regular hospital. But he'd spent his last weeks in a bed like the ones I'd seen here, surrounded by machines and tubes and the smell of disinfectant. I hadn't wanted to visit. I was 12, and death terrified me, and the hospital smelled wrong and looked wrong and felt wrong. But my mother made me go. She said I'd regret it if I didn't say goodbye. I remember the last time I saw him. He was so thin, so pale, so different from the father I remembered. The father who had carried me on his shoulders, who had taught me to ride a bike, who had sat with me through thunderstorms and told me there was nothing to be afraid of. He'd gripped my hand, his fingers were cold, so cold, and he tried to tell me something. His lips moved. His eyes were focused on mine with desperate intensity. But no words came out. Just breath. Just silence. I'd leaned closer, trying to hear. "What is it, Dad? What do you want to tell me?" He'd opened his mouth wider. His hand had squeezed mine hard enough to hurt, and then something had changed in his face. The desperation had faded. His eyes had gone soft. He'd smiled, a small, peaceful smile, and his grip had loosened. He died that night. I never found out what he was trying to say. I'd been cold ever since. Not physically, not always, but inside, in the place where warmth should have been, in the place where my father's voice used to live. This building knew that. Somehow this building knew everything about me. It knew what I needed. It knew what I was running from. It knew the shape of the hole in my chest. It knew how tired I was of being cold. The fire began to die. I should have added more wood, should have kept it burning, but I couldn't move. I was tired, so tired, and the footsteps were almost soothing now, a rhythm like a heartbeat, like something alive and present and close, like my father's heartbeat, the one I used to hear when he held me close, the one that had stopped 20 years ago but somehow still echoed in the dark. My eyes closed. I didn't remember closing them. I dreamed of the building. But in the dream, it wasn't abandoned. It was full of people. Patients in white gowns, nurses in starched uniforms, doctors with clipboards and cold eyes. They moved through the hallways in silent procession, always walking, never stopping. And watching them all, standing at the top of the staircase, was a woman. I couldn't see her face, just her silhouette, dark against the window behind her. She was smiling. I could feel her smiling even without seeing it. She saw me watching. She turned toward me. She started down the stairs. I woke up. I don't remember falling asleep. I remember the fire and the footsteps and the weight of exhaustion pressing down on me. And then I remember waking up and knowing immediately that something was wrong. The fire was still burning. That was the first wrong thing. I'd let it die down. I remembered watching the flames shrink. But now it was roaring, throwing heat and light across the room, burning higher than it had all night. The footsteps had stopped. That was the second wrong thing. The building was silent, completely silent, the kind of silence that feels like pressure against your ears. And Lily was gone. That was the worst thing. Her blanket was on the floor where she'd been sitting. Her shoes were still there, placed neatly side by side as if she'd taken them off, deliberately before leaving. The door was closed. The window was intact. She was just gone. I checked the room. Every corner, under the furniture, behind the door, nothing, no sign of struggle, no sign of anything except an empty space where my daughter should have been. "Ellen." My voice came out rough, barely a whisper. I cleared my throat. "Ellen, wake up." She stirred, opened her eyes, saw my face, and sat up immediately. "What is it? What's wrong?" "Lily's gone." The color drained from her face. She looked at the empty spot, at the shoes, at the closed door. "No." The word was barely audible. "No, she can't be. She was right there. She was right. I know, but she's gone." Marcus woke up then, disturbed by our voices. He looked around, confused, still half in whatever dream he'd been having. "Where's Lily?" I didn't have an answer. I woke Ellen, who tried to explain without scaring Marcus. Her face went white, then hard, then determined. "We have to find her." "We will, but we stay together. We don't split up." "David, she's out there alone." I know. But if we split up, I stopped. I didn't know how to finish the sentence. If we split up, what? Something would happen? Something was already happening. I just didn't know what. We gathered our things. I gave Marcus a flashlight, told him to hold his mother's hand, told him not to let go no matter what. He nodded, his face pale but determined. 8 years old and trying so hard to be brave. I thought about telling him it would be okay. I thought about lying to him the way parents lie to children. The comfortable lies that make the world seem safe. I didn't. I couldn't. Something about this place made lies feel dangerous, like the building was listening, like it would know. "Stay close," I said. "Stay quiet. We need to find your sister." Ellen nodded. Her face was tight with fear, but underneath the fear was determination. She would do whatever it took to find Lily. She would walk through hell itself if that's what was required. I loved her for that. I loved her for being brave when everything around us was wrong. I just wished I could tell her how brave I wasn't. We left the room. The hallway looked different. I was sure we'd come from the left. But the left ended in a wall now, solid brick that looked like it had been there for a century. The bricks were old, worn smooth, with names scratched into them. Dozens of names, hundreds, all of them crossed out. I looked at the names. I didn't recognize any of them, but I knew what they meant. People who had been here before. People who had scratched their names into these bricks. Desperate to leave some mark, desperate to be remembered. All of them crossed out, all of them forgotten. I reached out and touched one of the names. The brick was warm, warmer than it should have been in a building this cold. I pulled my hand back. The right stretched away into darkness, doors lining both sides, all of them closed. The floor was wet, though I couldn't see where the water was coming from. Our footsteps echoed strangely, sometimes too loud, sometimes not at all, as if the building was deciding which sounds to let through. There were stains on the floor, old stains, brown and crusted. I told myself they could be anything: water damage, rust, dirt tracked in from outside. Dirt tracked? I knew what they really were. I kept walking anyway. "This isn't right," Ellen whispered. "This isn't the way we came." "I know." "David, the building is different." "I know." "How is that possible? Buildings don't change. Buildings don't..." "I know." My voice came out harsher than I intended. "I know it's not possible. But it's happening anyway. We need to find Lily. We need to focus on that." She nodded, but I could see the fear in her eyes. The same fear I was feeling, the fear I was trying so hard not to show. I didn't have an explanation. I didn't have a plan. I didn't have anything except a flashlight with dying batteries and 3 people depending on me to get them out of here. I thought about what I'd read on the walls. They stay. Don't sleep. She hears. I thought about the scratches on the floor, the child's shoe, the handprints on the wrong side of the glass. I thought about how the building had felt from the moment we'd arrived. Like it was waiting, like it had always been waiting. Like we were exactly where we were supposed to be. I started walking, and Ellen and Marcus followed, because there was nothing else to do. We found Lily's headphones in the 3rd room we checked. Just her headphones, lying on an old metal bed frame. still connected to her phone. The phone was dead. The battery had been full when we'd arrived. I'd seen her watching videos in the car, the screen bright. Now it was dead. Completely dead. Like something had drained it. I picked up the phone. The screen flickered once, showing an image I couldn't process. Faces, many faces, all looking at the camera, all smiling with smiles that were too wide, and went dark. I told myself I hadn't seen what I thought I saw. I told myself it was just a glitch, just corruption, just the phone dying in an unexpected way. I told myself a lot of things. She was here, Ellen said. Her voice was barely a whisper. She was just here. But there was no sign of her, no footprints in the dust. No indication of which way she'd gone or been taken or whatever had happened. Just her headphones, lying there as if she'd simply set them down and walked away. I looked at the bed frame, at the straps attached to the sides, leather and metal, designed to hold someone down, at the mattress that remained, stained and rotted, at the small indentation in the center, as if someone had been lying there very recently. The indentation was Lily's size. I looked at the wall above the bed. They wanted to leave. We helped them stay. Ellen made a sound, not a scream. Something quieter, something broken. The sound of a mother realizing that the world was much darker than she'd ever imagined. "David," she said. "David, what is this place?" "I don't know." "What happened here? What did they do to people?" "I don't know. It doesn't matter. We need to find Lily and get out." But even as I said it, I felt something shift in the building, in myself. The walls seemed closer. The ceiling seemed lower. The darkness at the end of the hallway seemed to be watching us, waiting to see what we would do next. We kept searching. Marcus was silent now, his hand gripping Ellen so hard his knuckles were white. I led the way, checking each room, calling Lily's name, listening for any response. The rooms were all different, all wrong. A bathroom with a tub full of dark water that rippled when I looked at it, though nothing moved. The water was warm. I could feel the heat rising from it. A bedroom with a crib that rocked gently on its own, the blankets inside still warm as if a child had just been lifted out. An office with papers scattered everywhere, all of them blank except for one word repeated over and over. Warm, 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 warm. In one room, I found photographs on the wall. Old photographs, black and white, faded with age. Families, dozens of families, parents and children posed formally standing in front of this building, smiling at the camera. I looked closer. In every photograph, one person had been scratched out, removed, erased. Always the same person, always the father. I studied the faces that remained. Mothers with fixed smiles, children with blank eyes. They didn't look happy. They looked like people who had forgotten what happy meant. People who were going through the motions of a family photograph because that's what families did, even when the family was no longer whole. In one photograph, I could see a shadow behind the mother, the silhouette of whoever had been scratched out. The shadow was tall. The shadow was standing very close. The shadow looked like me. I found a playroom further down the hall, toys scattered across the floor, dolls with missing eyes, blocks stacked in towers that defied gravity, a rocking horse that moved gently back and forth, though no one was riding it. The walls were covered in drawings, crayon sketches made by small hands. The drawings all showed the same thing: a house, snow falling, a family standing outside. And in every drawing, the father was floating above the house, his arms spread wide, a smile on his face that stretched too far. I found a music box on a shelf. It was playing, though no one had wound it. The same melody over and over, the lullaby I'd been hearing since we arrived. I picked it up. The mechanism inside was rusted solid. It shouldn't have been able to play. I set it down. It kept playing. I didn't tell Ellen what I'd found. I kept searching. I found a journal in another room. The pages were mostly destroyed, water damaged and rotted, but a few entries were still legible. Day 1. Car broke down in the storm, found shelter in an old hospital. The children are frightened. I told them we'll leave in the morning. Day 2. Snow still falling. Doors won't open, windows are stuck or frozen or something else. The children keep asking when we can leave. I don't have an answer. Day 3. The snow hasn't stopped. The doors won't open. I tried breaking a window. The glass wouldn't crack. Day 5. Sarah says she heard singing last night. A lullaby, she said. I didn't hear anything, but I've started hearing footsteps. Day 7. Sarah is gone. I found her downstairs. She was smiling. She said she was warm now. She said she was home. She wouldn't come back upstairs. Day 9. The children are changing. They don't cry anymore. They don't ask to leave. They just sit and listen to something I can't hear. Day 12. The children day? The last entry was just one sentence, written in a different handwriting, a child's handwriting. Daddy stayed. I put down the journal. My hands were shaking. We kept searching. The second floor was warmer than the first, and the warmth increased as we climbed higher. By the time we reached the third floor, I was sweating. The air felt thick, humid, like a greenhouse or a fever dream. I found Lily's jacket draped over a railing, as if she'd hung it there herself, as if she'd stopped to take it off because she was warm, because she didn't need it anymore. The jacket was covered in frost, frozen stiff, but the hallway around it was warm. The contrast made no sense. Nothing in this building made sense. "Lily?" I called again. My voice came out wrong, muffled, like the building was filtering it, letting through only what it wanted to let through. "Lily, where are you?" No response. The hallway stretched ahead, doors on both sides, all of them closed. The wallpaper was peeling, revealing older wallpaper beneath, and beneath that, something darker. Writing, maybe, or stains, or something else entirely. I tried a door. Locked. Another. Locked. A third opened onto a room that shouldn't have been there. A room with no windows, no furniture, nothing but a chair in the center and words covering every inch of the walls, floor, ceiling. The same words over and over. Stay, 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 stay. I closed that door. Kept walking. I found a staircase I didn't remember seeing before. It led up even though we were already on the top floor. The steps were worn smooth in the center, as if thousands of feet had climbed them over the years. I could feel warmth rising from above. I should find Ellen and Marcus, I thought. I should go back to them. But I couldn't remember where I'd left them. The hallway behind me looked different now. The doors were in different places. The wallpaper had changed color. I couldn't remember if Ellen and Marcus had even come with me to the third floor. I couldn't remember climbing the stairs. The warmth was stronger now. I found myself slowing down. The urgency that had driven me was fading, replaced by something heavier. My legs felt like they belonged to someone else. I picked a direction, started walking. I found Lily's other shoe in a room at the end of the hall, just sitting there, neatly placed beside a bed that had been made up with clean sheets. White sheets. Crisp and clean. Like someone had just put them on. Like someone was expecting a guest. The bed looked comfortable. The room was warm. I sat down on the edge of the bed. Just for a moment, just to rest. The sheets smelled like laundry detergent. Like home. Like the way Ellen used to do the laundry on Sunday mornings, back when we lived in the apartment, back before the kids were born. I couldn't remember when that was. I couldn't remember the apartment. I could almost see Ellen's face, standing in the doorway, but the details kept slipping away. Her eyes were wrong. Her smile was wrong. Everything was wrong except the warmth. I lay down, just for a moment. The ceiling had a water stain that looked like a face. I watched it for a while. The face seemed to be smiling. The longer I looked, the more it looked like my father's face. The face he'd made at the end when he was trying to tell me something, but couldn't find the words. I closed my eyes. When I opened them, the light was different, softer. The room felt familiar, like I'd been here before, like I'd always been here. I sat up, looked around. The room was the same, but something had changed. The dust was gone, the walls were clean, the windows showed snow falling, endless snow, but I couldn't feel the cold anymore. The bed I was lying on had clean sheets, white sheets, crisp and smooth, like someone had just made the bed, like someone had been expecting me. The water stain on the ceiling was still there, still smiling. But now it looked less like my father and more like a face I didn't recognize, a face that was watching me, a face that was pleased. I should go find my family, I thought, but I couldn't remember their names. I said them out loud, trying to hold on to them. Ellen, Lily, Marcus. The sounds felt strange in my mouth, like words in a language I used to speak but had forgotten, like names that belonged to someone else's family. I got up, walked to the door. The hallway outside was warm and quiet. Other doors lined the walls, all of them closed. Could hear breathing behind them. Slow, peaceful breathing. The breathing of people sleeping, or the breathing of people who would never wake up. I should leave, I thought. I should go back to the car, but I couldn't remember where the car was. I couldn't remember driving here. I couldn't remember the storm or the snow or the road that had led us to this place. Had there been a road? Had there been a storm? Or had we always been here, in this building, in this warmth, forgetting and forgetting and forgetting? It was warm here. That was what mattered. It was warm and I was tired. And there was a bed waiting for me with clean white sheets. I went back to my room, lay down again, closed my eyes. The snow kept falling outside the window. I could hear it somehow. A soft sound like static, like white noise, like a lullaby played on a broken radio. The same melody over and over, the one I'd been hearing since we arrived. The one I could finally identify now. It was the song Ellen used to hum to the kids. The lullaby she sang when they were babies, when they couldn't sleep, when they needed to know they were safe. The building had been singing it to us all along. I slept. I'm writing this because I found a pen. I don't remember where I found it. I don't remember deciding to write, but I'm writing now, so I must have decided at some point. My hand moves across the paper and words appear, and I don't know if they're the right words or the wrong words, or if words even matter anymore. I think I had a family once, a wife, children. I can almost see their faces when I close my eyes, but the details are wrong. The wife has too many teeth. The children don't have faces at all, just smooth skin where their features should be, like dolls that were never finished. That can't be right. Everyone has a face. I live here now. I think I've always lived here. I have a room on the 3rd floor, or maybe the 4th floor, or maybe there is no 3rd floor and never was, with a bed and a window and a water stain on the ceiling that looks like someone smiling. The water stain looks like my father. I remember that now. I remember sitting by his bed at the end, watching him try to speak, watching his mouth move around words that wouldn't come. He wanted to tell me something important, something about staying. Or maybe that was someone else. Maybe that was me. There are others here too. I hear them sometimes moving in the hallways, breathing behind their doors. We don't talk. There's nothing to say. We're all just here now. We're all just staying. Sometimes I see them, glimpses through doorways, shadows in mirrors. A woman who might be my wife, walking down a hallway that wasn't there a moment ago. Children running in the snow outside, though when I look closer, there's no one there. Just snow, just white, just silence. I don't remember what I was looking for before. I don't remember why I was so cold, so tired, so afraid. I don't remember the car or the storm or the drive through the mountains. I remember a building, a dark building with a fireplace and words on the walls. I remember being worried about something. Someone, a girl, a boy. Names that started with sounds I can almost hear. But that feels like a long time ago. That feels like something that happened to someone else. Someone who was cold, someone who was afraid. I'm not cold anymore. I'm not afraid. I should stop writing. I don't know why I started. There's no one to read this. There's nothing to say. The pen keeps moving, but the words don't mean anything. They're just shapes on paper. They're just marks that will fade. But my hand keeps moving. The pen keeps scratching. Words keep appearing on the paper, words I don't remember choosing, words that feel like they belong to someone else. The snow is still falling outside. I can see it through the window, white on white on white, covering everything, burying everything, making everything clean and new and blank. And I think it's been falling for a long time. I think it will fall forever. I had a wife. I think her name started with E, or maybe L. The letters keep changing, the sounds keep slipping away. I had children. I think there were 2 of them, or 3, or none. The number keeps changing when I try to count. I had a life outside this building. I think I did. There must have been something before this. There must have been a reason I came here. People don't just appear in buildings. People come from somewhere. People have histories. But I can't remember mine. I can only remember the warmth. I can only remember the bed with the clean sheets. I can only remember lying down and closing my eyes and feeling for the first time in so long, like I was finally where I was supposed to be. I'm gonna put down this pen now. I'm gonna go back to my room. I'm gonna lie down on my bed with the clean sheets that smell like home. I'm going to close my eyes, and tomorrow I'll still be here. And the day after, and the day after that, forever and ever, warm and safe, while the snow falls outside and covers everything. The snow keeps falling. I keep